YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with our second free agency signing grades video. If you haven't seen the first one, go check it out. Our most recent video, we graded the signings from the first half of day one here. Now we're going to grade the signings from the second half of day one, and there'll be more videos throughout the week. There'll probably be signings as I'm talking or later tonight. We'll catch up with those with you guys tomorrow there, and there should be trades throughout the week as well. We got you covered with everything NFL. Our Twitter has the breaking news, instant analysis, always interacting with you guys. It's a must follow there. Link pinned in the comments for that, as well as our Discord, as well as our sponsors, GLD Shop, NFL Jewelry, like this Vikings chain I have on right now. Some cool stuff. We have a code GOAT, Liquid IV, same thing, and Walk the Mock. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. Let's go on to the second half of day one. Some grades starting off, and we're going to give out some A-pluses in this one. I'm excited about it. I love giving out A-pluses. But Jessie Bates, who is one of my favorite free safeties in football, I'm going to give him going to the Falcons. I'm going to give the Falcons an A for the signing of Jessie Bates. 4 years, $64 million, $16 million per year. I think he's worth that. It's a lot of money. It's the fourth highest paid safety in football. I honestly didn't think he was going to get quite that much. It's actually just over $16 million. But that doesn't mean he's not worth it. I just thought for some reason the safety market was going to hurt him a little bit. But he gets the money that he's deserved here. So I think it's a pretty good signing for the Atlanta Falcons. 4 year, and again, the numbers make sense to me. If I had to predict, I thought he'd probably get, like I said, a little bit less, but he's deserving of this amount. So we'll give this one an A. He's a big-time playmaking free safety. The Falcons going to run a similar defense with the Saints been running, and they always have a playmaking safety back there. Marcus Williams for a bit. I think Jessie Bates is better than Marcus Williams. Both solid playmaking safeties in the back end. So this was one we predicted too. I originally was predicting the Bates to go to the Browns, but the other day I switched it over to the Falcons in that most recent video before free agency, so I was pretty excited about that one there. The Falcons making some splash moves. Next, Jamal Dean, the cornerback of the Buccaneers, remains with the Buccaneers. He signed a 4-year, $52 million deal, $13 million per year. In terms of value, this actually might be a little better than a B+, just straight money. It's kind of right around where I think he should get. I thought he was going to get a little bit more. I was kind of worried some team was going to overpay him, especially with how these young corners are turning out, like in the draft and how stacked the draft class is. I was a little worried some team was going to, a good player, but overpay him quite a bit. That wasn't the case here. $13 million per year is pretty good. Again, in terms of value, I almost gave this an A-. The Bucs able to keep him on pretty good value, less than I thought. Why I have to bump it down a little bit is they're spending so much money at the cornerback position between Carlton Davis and Jamal Dean. A good duo, don't get me wrong here. Really good duo, but they're spending so much money when it's a really good draft class. And where are the Buccaneers at? They going in some sort of rebuild? I guess these guys are young corners that could be a part of it. But overall, I gave it a B+. B+ is a good grade here. $13 million per year. Again, I expected maybe just to be an overpaid guy. Wasn't really the case. Right around where he should get paid. Right around that range there. But yeah, everyone just looking at that draft class that's coming up. It's really loaded with the corners, and it's different these days. Like the corners are breaking out instantly. It used to take like a few years, almost like how quarterbacks used to be for corners. So I'm curious to see how these corners come off the board in the draft. But Jamal Dean, a pretty good young one here. Some durability issues in the past, but the Bucs get him back. Which is the price, which is a little bit of a surprise. Andre Dillard's an interesting one, and an interesting one to grade as well. The Titans signed him, which is another one we did predict the other day. 3 years, $29 million. That is $9.66 million per year. So this is a guy that was a first-round pick, and then wasn't really panning out, because you expect that guy to not only be a starter, but be better than just a starter. But at the same time, the Eagles always had a really good offensive line. I mean, they have the best tackle duo in football, so he's kind of sitting behind those guys. Whenever someone got injured, tackle or guard, you see him fill in, playing pretty well. So he's a guy. It was an interesting guy in free agency where, it's kind of a boomer bust guy. Somebody can sign him like, okay, we're banking on this guy panning out. He was a backup on a really good offensive line. but we don't know if he's going to be a good starter. I thought he'd get paid a bit more because of that. I thought somebody would take the risk, kind of go all in. I thought he would end up getting around like 13, 14 million perhaps, just gambling big time because he has some potential upside. Like he could end up being even a steal on that contract. Possibly. It's a huge gamble. And it still is a gamble. 9.66 million is a bit. I heard there's a possibility he could play guard for the Titans, left tackle or guard. So keep that in mind. I gave this one an A-. It's a little tricky, but I do like it because it's a lot of upside here. They let Nate Davis walk, which for $10 million per year on a guard, could you have brought him back? But they get a guy that could potentially play tackle or has a lot of upside at guard. Either way, ends up being cheaper than Nate Davis. I like the upside with this one. I thought somebody would spend a little bit more. I would have liked the Titans to have been in on Orlando Brown Jr. I don't mind paying him a lot of money because he's a really good tackle, and I think he could really fit the Tennessee Titans if they're trying to keep the scheme somewhat similar there. But I like this one. This was a kind of a gamble signing heading into free agency, and the Titans kind of made it not as much of a gamble, and it has kind of like a boom factor. So I thought he was kind of a boom or bust free agent heading in, but he's not much of a bust. I mean, a little bit because they spent a little bit, but it's more of a boom factor here where if he's not that great, it's not a huge letdown because it's not the most expensive deal. And just keep an eye on if he plays tackle or guard. I think could be a starting left tackle. Could be a decent starting guard for them, so we will see. It's an intriguing one. It was a guy I was intrigued with coming into free agency. Next, speaking of the Titans, this is one of my favorites, one of the best signings. You could argue this might be the best signing so far. I'd argue with a few other guys, and we actually gave out with some A pluses throughout this video as well, which surprised the amount of A pluses I'm giving out here. But David Long Jr., Tennessee Titans linebacker who broke out this year. He did have an injury. Halfway through the year, I ranked players by position. I had him in the top 5 linebackers, actually. He was having a heck of a year. And I noticed when they play the Chiefs, it seems like he's able to guard Kelsey pretty well, too. So to me, that stood out well. But 2-year, $11 million, I was stunned by this. And I was stunned the Tennessee Titans did not match or beat that because he was big for them. Now it kind of opens up a hole. They have some cap space. What did you clear cap space for? So I was shocked by that, and all the other teams signing linebackers that are spending a little bit more than this on guys that I think David Long Jr. is better than. I'm just surprised all around. 2-year, $11 million, $5.5 million per year. It's an absolute steal. I thought he was a top 20 free agent. I mean, I saw some upside. I saw some really good play last year. He's going to fit Vic Fangio, it's hard to say, his scheme, 3-4 inside linebacker, pair him up with Jerome Baker. If Jerome Baker remains there, I would assume so. But it's phenomenal, I think. This was an absolute steal. Just surprised. Linebackers end up being cheaper than inside linebackers end up being cheaper than expected, but there's guys that got paid more than David Long Jr. from other teams where I think David Long Jr. is just better. Maybe the injury is a little bit of a concern, perhaps. Signed pretty quick. This was an incredible value signing, and you get a good starter here for the Miami Dolphins. It's a hell of a job right there. Just surprised by that one. Next, this was an interesting linebacker one. Bobby Okereke, the Colts linebacker, goes to the Giants. I thought kind of Colts or Bears. He's been a 4-3 guy, his career with the Colts. The Giants run a 3-4, that Martindale scheme, 2 inside linebackers. The outside linebackers are pass rush type guys, a lot of blitzing. I don't know if I love the fit. I know the Giants they need better coverage out of their linebackers. And he's a pretty good coverage linebacker, but that was when playing either 4-3 weak side or 4-3 inside. Thought he was better weak side. So it's going to feel a little bit different for Bobby Okereke. And something I've noticed, I keep talking about it the last 3 to 5 years. Anytime a linebacker kind of changes schemes, it does, not 100% of the time, but most of the time it does not go well. We keep seeing it, like big time linebackers that change schemes, change coaches, whether it's the same team, new team, and they're usually on big contracts too. For some reason, it doesn't work out. So that scares me a little bit with this one because I do not really see him as a Martindale 3-4 inside linebacker. He makes some splash plays in coverage, which is great. Haven't really seen a lot of production in the backfield, which you kind of expect from your inside linebackers. You expect tackles for loss. You expect some blitz production and for a Martindale scheme. We just have not seen that. It's kind of a mystery for this one. So this was a shocking one, and I felt like, and I predicted they would be on Tremaine Edmunds. The Bears just paid a little too much for the Giants, so I'm not gonna punish the Giants for not spending something stupid there, but it felt like, oh God, we can't get Edmunds. Who are we gonna get? We throw out $10 million per year for the guy, which is a little bit of a mystery on if he's gonna fit perfectly or not. And with that, I don't know if I love the 4 years either, because it's a bit of a gamble. It's a bit of a gamble. People are gonna say, well, he's gonna work out. He's got good play in the past. Different scheme, and you could say he's gonna work out, but again, chances are, look at the linebackers that have changed schemes. Why is this one going to be different? Why is it going to be different? We see it every year. We see it, we've seen it with, so many good players when they change the scheme and kind of tweak their position a little bit. Why doesn't it go good? It seems to be specifically linebackers, but yeah, so it was a tough one. I was surprised by that. I gave it a C-. The more I'm talking, the more I'm thinking that maybe that's generous, but he is a good ball player, and the Giants did need better coverage on the inside there at the linebacker position. They have some good coverage in the secondary, guys like Adoree Jackson, Julian Love, who's a free agent, Xavier McKinney. It just seemed when guys kind of got in that inside, and just outrunning linebackers in man coverage. So maybe they see something in Okereke to be able to man up in coverage. Again, he's played mainly cover 2 though with the Colts, so it's going to be different. So why I didn't really flunk him or keep him the D, I do think he's or put him at a D. I do think he's a good ball player, and they did get that coverage help. But man, it's a risky one. This is a risky one, and it did feel a little bit like we didn't get Edmunds. Let's panic. All the linebackers come off the board. The $40 million might not be the bad part. It might be the 4 years. I would have preferred like a 2 or 3 there, but could that get the deal done? And the linebacker class in the draft is pretty weak, so a little bit of a panic here maybe. Don't love the fit, but sometimes a new fit is created, so you never know there. Von Bell, I gave this one an A to the Panthers. This was a little bit of a surprising one too. The Bengals lost both their safeties. Expected Jessie Bates. Thought they would get Von Bell back, especially for this price. 3 years, $22.5 billion, $7.5 million per year. Still somewhat young. I thought he had a pretty damn good year as a playmaker. So adding some things to his game. In terms of like the player and the value, $7.5 million per year, this is an A+ deal. Why I couldn't give it an A+? It's a little interesting of a deal because he's a strong safety that can play in the box. To me, Jeremy Chinn's a strong safety that can play in the box. He played quite a bit in the box. His first year looked pretty good. He has experience as free safety, but why I didn't love his Southern Illinois tape is because they had him at free safety a little too much. He didn't really feel like a free safety to me. So do they move him to free safety and then Xavier Woods hits the bench? Probably not. It's probably they're going to play Chinn in the slot/box. I see people saying linebacker, but Evero's defense is going to be a 3-4. The outside linebackers are going to be edge rushers. The inside linebacker, are we going to put Jeremy Chinn at the inside? I don't really see them as an inside linebacker, in Evero's scheme, are they going to really use, 3 safeties like that? So it's a little interesting, and that's why, could they have focused somewhere else? That's why I couldn't really give an A+, but I didn't, I'm not trying to knock this at all. I just knock it down from an A+ to an A. It's a really good football player here. Strong safety that can play in the box at $7.5 million per year, I think is less than, maybe a little bit less than what he's worth. Like I said, value, just looking at the money, is probably an A+, but it's very interesting what's going on there with their strong safeties. Because I like Jeremy Chinn a lot. I think these last couple of years, in that right role, you can't stash him at inside linebacker, in my opinion. You can't stash him. You got to have him in coverage a bit. Don't need him in coverage at free safety. Curious to what they're doing. So it was a little, Shy Tuttle was interesting too. It's like just not the pieces I thought they were going to go for, but they get a good piece here in Von Bell. Very intriguing. Next, this is an interesting one. Zach Allen goes to the Broncos, which we predicted in that last video before free agency, so another one we got there. I was shocked about the numbers here. 3 years, $45.75 million. That's a $15.25 million per year average. That is a whopping number for a guy that kind of just broke out this year. He wasn't super productive this year. He kind of just broke out, got going. I thought he benefited from playing alongside J.J. Watt because he's a very poor man's version of J.J. Watt. So kind of learning from him was pretty big, but maybe that can help him going forward. If this wasn't the Broncos or the Cardinals, I would probably give this an F. And why I say the Broncos, the Cardinals is his team that he played pretty well for last year. And the Broncos, he's got a defense coordinator, Vance Joseph, who coached him with the Cardinals, that he played pretty decent for last year. So Vance Joseph, he fits him, sees something in him. So, 15.25 is ridiculous overpay in my opinion. So if it wasn't either of those two teams, I probably would have gave it an F. For me, Zach Allen's always been, he was pretty good last year. Like I said, maybe he's going to keep on growing off that, but he's always been not athletic enough to play off the edge, maybe not strong enough for the interior guys, but he found a pretty good role last year. I just think this is a big overpay. I wanted to keep him under double digit per year, so I wanted to keep him around that $9.5 million per year. So this is pretty far over it. And then to make things worse, we're going to talk about a guy, Draymond Jones, who was on the Broncos. We're going to talk about him in a little bit here. Who was a big-time player for them last year. He could have fit in this he plays the same position, 3-4 end as Zach Allen, and he didn't get that much more. He got like $17 million per year. Why couldn't you just do that? I would have much preferred that. These two players shouldn't be that close in terms of the value. So I end up giving this one a D+. I think the player was a little bit overhyped based on last year. I don't like the price point. Like I said, I thought I liked him around $9 million. I thought he was going to get more than that, but not a whole lot more than that. Maybe like 11.5. And they went all the way up to 15.25. Again, if this wasn't Vance Joseph / Broncos or the Cardinals, I would have flunked that team for this one. I would have. But a young player that continues to get better here. The Broncos, the first video, they made some splash signings, in that one. We're going to give out some A-pluses now. I was surprised by this one. The edge rusher from the Saints, Marcus Davenport, goes to the Vikings. I was surprised about the team that he went to and about the money here. 1 year, $13 million. Marcus Davenport, I had, and I'm pretty sure everyone had pretty much, as the best edge rusher in the entire free agency class. Now, it was a little bit underwhelming of a free agency class, but this was the best one because of his talent. When he's on the field, we'll get to that. And the upside. I mean, only 26. This is a guy that was a raw prospect out of Texas San Antonio, so a lot of upside there. I thought a team was going to overpay on this guy. I thought his value was probably around that anywhere between 15 to 17 range I was probably good with, but getting up to 17 is kind of pushing it. 15, 16. But I really thought a team might go in with like 18 and a half because pass rush, the cap went up. Pass rushers are extremely valuable, and this guy has talent and upside. The issue was the durability, but I thought a team would bank on maybe him staying healthy and reaching that upside. Because I don't know if he needs to reach upside. If he's healthy, I think he's getting there. That's the thing. So I really thought a team was going to do it. I thought we'd be talking about him as an overpay guy, and he got underpaid in my opinion. 1 year deal, so you don't have him long term, but this was a steal in my opinion. The only downside it could mean is that Elliss Smith is on his way out. Pretty good pass rusher there, but you get a young upside pass rusher here for $13 million is a pretty damn good deal here. So I was surprised about that one, the team and the money. So the Vikings get that pass rusher. We'll see. Is it Elliss Smith they didn't want to cut, but he's asking to be cut because he thinks he's underpaid? Could it be Davenport and Hunter? But there have been some trade talks about Hunter in the past. Could it be Davenport and Elliss Smith? Could it be Davenport and somebody totally different? We'll see. So, interesting one. We're giving out A-pluses. Like I said, I love some of these deals. Draymond Jones, I was starting to worry he was going to get overpaid too. I was starting to worry he was going to get, because I liked him around that, I was good with like the $18.5 million range. And 19.5 would have been probably okay, but you're starting to push it. But then I really thought he was going to get more than 20 million. Deron Payne, kind of a little different style of a defensive lineman, but boosting that market. We saw what Hargrave got. And I was worried a 4-3 team was going to grab him because I don't really love him in the 4-3. I love him in the 3-4. The Seahawks switched to a 3-4 last year. They need a 3-4 end. Shelby Harris was kind of playing that role. Phenomenal player, former Bronco. They cut him, was a tiny bit of a surprise. But again, Shelby Harris, phenomenal player, maybe phenomenal strong, but I think he's more of a D tackle. So you just get a great fit as a 3-4 end. This will elevate the pass rush, because you got, they need another edge rusher, but you got Nwosu who's solid, and you got young guys, like Darrell Taylor. These guys, you can elevate these guys with a 3-4 end that is a pass rusher, that kind of makes everybody better, and he can stop the run as well. So $17 million is actually... Man, I thought for sure this guy's going to get overpaid. I thought he was around, my value was around like 17.5, 18, 18.5, around that range, and I thought he was going to get more than that. He got less than that, and I heard all these teams in on him. I'm glad a 4-3 team didn't get him, though. I thought that would have been a mistake. Like a 4-3 team would have signed him at this deal. I would not have given an A+, unless it was the Texans, because DeMeco Ryans a little bit different of a defense. But I really like this for the Seahawks. The fit. And I'm a little mad I didn't predict this because I was feeling the Seahawks for Draymond Jones. But with Shelby Harris still there, if they would have cut Shelby Harris when I did that predictions video yesterday, I promise you I would have predicted this. So a little salty there, but I like it. I love the fit. I'm happy for the Seahawks here. That was a big one that I was pretty surprised with the money there. But once the Seahawks cut Shelby Harris, we kind of felt like this was coming here. And then another A+, Jimmie Ward goes to the Texans, stays with DeMeco Ryans, 2-year, $13 million. That's only $6.5 million per year for who's been a standout defensive back. He played free safety earlier in his career, playing more of the slot role recently, but he can do both. I think with this price range, he's definitely going to be in the slot, but I mean, it's possible he lines up at the free safety position here and there. It's a cheap deal, $6.5 million, even if he's at slot corner. It's a cheap deal. You got experience. You got a good player. We know it's a fit with DeMeco Ryans. You know we're going to get good play for him. But I'm just thinking about Jimmie Ward. I mean, that alone, it's an A+. But then I'm thinking about Jimmie Ward and Jalen Petrie. I think that's a really good pairing in the secondary, in the defensive backfield. It kind of reminds me of, Ward and what Ward and Afunga did last year. And Petrie's got more upside than Afunga for sure. He played lights out as a rookie, better than I expected, honestly, even though we knew he's a good ball player. So it just all feels great together. I'm glad the Texans did something like this because and I wish they did a little bit more. I thought maybe they'd be on Draymond Jones or Marcus Davenport. They missed on that. Haven't really been on anybody big yet. They're making some weird signings. Not that they're bad, but they're a little weird and not impactful. So I'm glad they did something like this. Makes me feel a little bit better here. So we gave out, it had been the most A+, because I'm usually kind of strict, I would think. That's the most A+ I think I've given out in one video. So I liked some of these deals, like with fits, but with money mainly. So some good signings, but we're not really done yet here. Talk about a few more. Steelers signed Patrick Peterson, 2-year, $14 million at $7 million per year. He was good earlier, the first half of the year last year, but he's been playing zone since we started seeing him decline. He's kind of been playing more zone. That's typically what happens. Like the man corners, eventually they get older because man's a lot of running with guys, chasing guys. So when they get older, they can't really do that anymore. So they typically play zone, and only the smart ones could continue to play zone. And Patrick Peterson is a smarter one. So he's been playing that. He was really good in the first half of last year. Second half of the year, he went kind of downhill. But the Steelers lost Cam Sutton to the Lions. And the Steelers, Mike Tomlin defense, usually a man defense. So they get Patrick Peterson for $7 million a year. I would have much rather than pay that $11 million per year for Cam Sutton. I am confused on why they didn't do that. I mean, Peterson, knowledgeable, still maybe some solid play in him. So I didn't give it a terrible grade, but I don't love the fit. And I don't love that they didn't get Cam Sutton back for just a little bit more. So I gave it a C. The more I'm talking, the more I'm like, Browns, Obo Okoronkwo, who kind of broke out the end of last year, was pretty productive as a high upside athletic pass rusher going to the Browns, 3-year, $19 million. In terms of value, because you got some upside here with this guy, I think it's a value. Like it might be an A+ in terms of that value. My issue with the Browns is with the other edge position opposite of Myles Garrett, they keep kind of going with like the maybe guys. Like they have had a lot of chances just to get a pretty damn good guy by Myles Garrett to make it a dominant, because Myles Garrett is one of the best in football, plain and simple. But, they've had chances to make this a ridiculous pass rush duo, and they're kind of scared for some reason, a little scared to do that. So I couldn't quite give them the A+ because they're kind of sticking on that path that I haven't been thrilled with, but I still gave it an A because I like the upside out of Okoronkwo. I think he'll play good with the Browns, and it's a pretty good value deal. Lions, Alex Anzalone, 3-year, $18.75 million. Don't love this one. He played all right for them last year. I think where he thrived was the blitzing game. which kind of helped them. It's a solid linebacker. It's a solid inside linebacker here. I really thought the Lions were going to get better at that position. I really thought they were going to go and get better, next to Rodrigo there. And Anzalone's got experience. He's decent, but I thought it was a spot that needed to be more consistent. And then, but he's still a decent guy, but, player. But then you're seeing all these other off-ball linebackers, specifically inside linebackers, and what they're getting paid. They're getting paid around the same thing. Why couldn't you go a little bit more? And there's some guys actually getting a little bit less that I like a little bit better. Why couldn't you do that? I really like Jermaine Pratt as a fit for them. Maybe he took less to play for the Bengals, but him getting $7 million per year, why couldn't you go? I would have been good with them going like $12 million per year. Not that they were going to do that. Why couldn't they do that? I'm a little surprised with Brad Holmes here. I just really saw an opportunity to get better because he got a little inconsistent play here. He got better as the year went on. He was part of the blitz game, but a little disappointed they didn't kind of go in on that one. Raiders and Marcus Epps, 2-year, $12 million. I gave this one a C. It sounded like they're in on Jordan Poyer, which I thought they would be in on. And then it's a little bit different in price, different in talent, different in price. So then they turned their attention to Marcus Epps, 2-year, $12 million. What stands about him is he played a lot for the Eagles last year, pretty good defense. But, man, he wasn't too good with the Vikings. They were done with him pretty quick. And I think he was hot and cold with the Eagles, pretty inconsistent, but he fit pretty well with them. I just like the way that secondary was coached by Gannon, and they had a lot of guys. They played really good team defense. Like, you see multiple guys in coverage. It felt like they had like 8 guys in coverage at times, and it was just so much help, so much team defense. So I think that helped Epps look a little better. I worry that he's just not going to look, as good like where he was in Minnesota. Like, he's not going to look as good away from that specific secondary. But I do think Patrick Graham is a good defensive coordinator. The defense didn't look too good last year, but I do think he's a good defense coordinator. But, I don't love that one. $6 million per year, and looking at who's in that price range, a little bit more than Jaron Kearse, who's just a far better strong safety. So even though $6 million sounds pretty cheap, it's actually not. You look at the rest of that. So C for the race. He does have upside. So it sounded like I was going to give him a worse grade than a C, but he does have some upside there. And I do like Patrick Graham as defense coordinator. Broncos go Chris Manhertz, 2 years, $6 million. Underrated blocking tight end. Josh Oliver was another blocking tight end that signed for a big contract, which he's a little better and he has more upside. He's younger. But this is more like the blocking tight end contract, and the Broncos actually badly needed a blocking tight end. So 2 years, $6 million, I thought made some sense. He's a little older, not a splash signing. He's not super old. Was he 30? B+. I like that one. Alex Singleton, it's kind of like the Lions situation, how I just explained with Anzalone. I think Anzalone's a little bit better, pretty close, and they got a pretty close deal. 3-year, $18 million, but it's like linebacker's a weak spot on the Broncos. Like when the defense was really good, but there was random times where it kind of got exposed. I'd say big time in the Christmas Rams game. People just put guys in the passing game in that linebacker spot or slip screens, and the linebackers couldn't do anything about it. Singleton's an okay linebacker, but it's a spot where you needed to get better. And you're looking at all these linebackers that are signing for dirt cheap. You couldn't spend a little bit more. There's guys that are a lot better that got paid right around this range. You couldn't go do that. You're spending huge money on Zach Allen instead. So a little disappointing with that one. Panthers get Bradley Bozeman, 3-year, $18 million in terms of value. This is an A+. The Panthers were kind of like that with Von Bell too. In terms of value, it's an A+, because it's a pretty good center. Same price point of Postich guy. It's kind of a cheap deal. I know centers don't get paid a whole lot. He does have durability concern. You sign him for 3-year. So that's where it gets a little scary. So I couldn't quite give him the A+, but I do like it. Overall, it's good. It's a sneaky one that's kind of growing on me. The Falcons signing Kaden Elliss, the linebacker from the Saints. So familiar with Ryan Nielsen. Signs another Saints guy, Onyemata. Talked about him in the first video. 3-year, $21.5 million. This is different than the inside linebackers we talked about in their price range. It's different because this is an outside linebacker. We've seen him in a 4-3. We've seen him play some strong linebacker, and then we've seen him, play Sam. We've seen him rush. We've seen him blitz. And he's young. He's only getting better. He's underrated. I see some upside there. I think the Falcons might do a little more. They might get even more creative with him. So this one's kind of growing on me a little bit. It's a sneaky one here. We'll go B+ on that one. And then right before going to record, the Bears signed DeMarcus Walker. I almost used to kind of get mixed up with Walker and Draymond Jones, right when they came, even though I knew the difference between them. One was Ohio State guy, one was a Florida State guy. coming in the league, and then obviously one was a lot better than the other. But my point is, and we heard the Bears are going to be on Draymond Jones. My point is, this is an option B. It's a poor, probably a very poor man's, even though he's a good player, don't get me wrong here, a decent player. But the poor man's option B of Draymond Jones for the Chicago Bears. So Bears have had an interesting start of the offseason. They made some splash moves, got some good players. Technically, they got better, but they didn't really hit on the positions we thought they would. Looking at, or people thought they would. People thought they'd get Mike McGlinchey. I thought maybe they'd get Juwan Taylor. They didn't get that position yet. And then they thought maybe get Draymond Jones or one of those D tackles. They ended up kind of going down and getting Walker. He was a guy I liked a lot out of Florida State, and he was very underwhelming. I was so disappointed, like, this guy's really not getting to where I thought he was. But then a decent rotation guy, not like he was bad. Then he goes to the Titans last year, and he's got to fill in because of injuries, and he was pretty damn productive, actually, 7 sacks. So which Walker are we going to – it's a tricky one, because which Walker are we going to get? They pay him $7 million per year. We see other guys that are pretty decent starters get paid around that range. Former Bear Roy Robertson-Harris with the Jags, who was much better than Walker. So it's a little tricky, because is this guy going to be a high-end backup? Then did you overpay him? Is he going to start for the Bears? We thought maybe the Bears would get better here in free agency at that specific spot. So it is a little tricky, but he's got a lot of upside still. I think he's going to fit Eberflus's scheme. They'll probably use him at end and at 3 technique. I honestly, again, option B of Dre'Mont Jones in a poor man's version of him, but honestly, I could see Walker fitting better. Not that he's going to be better than Dre'Mont Jones, but Dre'Mont Jones, I kind of just, even though they're similar style players, I kind of strictly just like him as a 3-4 end. The Titans run a unique scheme where they move guys around a bit, different looks, 3-4 and 4-3, and he kind of worked there. So I think he could play, maybe that 3 technique role for Eberflus, and it can make some sense. And $7 million is more like it for a 3 technique. So I'll give it a B. There's some risk in that one. Are they eventually, during this 3-year deal, going to end up paying this guy $7 million per year to be a high-end backup? So there's some questions there, but broke out last year. Maybe he can continue to feed off that and could fit that 3 technique spot perhaps there for Eberflus. So an interesting one. My phone's been going off. Nothing actually. No, wow, nothing major there. Wow. So that's got to be a first while recording a video. And then, I have this page. I'll put a link. It's in both videos, in the pin in the comments there, other links there. Just kind of trying to get a tracker going here. Eric Kendrick signed with the Chargers. I do not have the numbers on that. I was surprised by that one. I thought he would go back to playing 4-3 inside, so stay 3-4, still an upgrade for the Chargers. There's a few other signings, a notable one, Sam Darnold, 49ers. I did not see the numbers on that one. Maybe they're out by now, though, because I did not see the Jimmy Ward ones for a while, and I saw Kaplan tweeted those ones. Maybe they got the Sam Darnold ones now, but interesting. Maybe Sam Darnold hits a little bit of upside if he gets a chance in the Shanahan offense, maybe. So a lot on here, and sometimes you can see the grades most time before I actually talk about them in the video. But a lot more signings are going to happen tonight, even more tomorrow, even more the next day. Trades, waiting on Rodgers, same situation there. We'll have you covered for all that stuff. An instant talk on our Twitter about everything. So that's an absolute must follow there. Links pinned in the comments for that. Anything else you're looking for. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Again, we have the most recent video is the same thing, but with other signings. Check it out. There's a playlist going to be full of these things. A lot more to come. Multiple every single day. We got you. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.